founder and director of Medivision, and he'll be in conversation with Mr. Vivek Krishna Govind from Varma and Varma. So over to Vivek.
Come, let me first invite Bibu on stage. Gentlemen, and pleasure having all of you with us. As you know, TiE Kerala, I'm sure most of you here are aware, and so I'm not really getting into what TiE Kerala stands for and what the motives and what the objectives of TiE Kerala are, because I think this is KSUM is a very, very important integral partner for TiE Kerala for all our events, and we are very happy and privileged that once again we are hosting an event here with all of you, many of you young minds, some of the others very experienced young minds, here to share. This is a very informal discussion which we are having, and we are very close personal friends as well. So we're just going to sit here and have a chat. So simple format, maybe for about first 20-25 minutes, we'll have some conversation. I'll try and pull out some of the interesting facets of Bibu's life. And as we move forward, we would also request some questions from all of you, and that's what makes the session lively. And in between, at any point, if you want to, if you feel that there is any observation which any of us are making, where you feel a little more discussion is required, please feel free, raise your hands, interrupt us, and we'll only be happy to take this forward as an interactive session. This is not a structured talk, but this is one where we have to bring out the best from the leader. Leader Connect is the session, and it's important that we connect with the leader. It's really as simple as that. So with these few words, no formal introduction, but just a couple of words. Bibu runs one of the most respected and largest diagnostic centers in Kerala called Medivision, and over the past 3 decades, his stamp of credibility, along with his brother-in-law, he'll speak about how Medivision was started and where it stands today, and the size and the values, etc. of the group he will speak about. And there is also an added feather on his cap. He is the president of the Kerala Management Association, which is the largest, oldest, and one of the most respected management associations in the country. So KMA was founded in 1957 along with the state of Kerala. So it's a 67-year-old organization, and it's a great honor for all of us that Bibu is heading KMA, and he's also a charter member of TiE. So we work together very closely. Startup mission and the startup ecosystem here is very different from the world in which both of us operate. I'm a practicing chartered accountant. He runs a medical diagnostic center, and this is a very different world for us. So we would also like to hear from you and learn from you as we move forward. So with these few words, let me get started. Bibu, let's get started. Any opening remarks before I start with the questions? Anything you'd like to say, and then I'll take it.
Good evening, all of you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here today evening for all the good reasons that Vivek just said. And in a way, I'm, after probably a long time, I'm not seeing much of grey out here, because, it's all youngsters. So because every forum that we go to, probably Vivek was just telling about KMA, and he was talking about, and he's going to be the next president of TiE. He is a past president of KMA. He's part of CIA. He's part of everything. So whenever we address individually or as a group, when we address people, half the people are probably our age or older than us. Of course, we have youngsters too. So I'm really, really happy that seeing so many of you out here, and this is the first time I'm getting into this campus, and really, overwhelmed by what is happening and the passion in which each of you are doing your stuff. So thank you for this opportunity, I would say, especially to TiE for having invited me here and to share whatever I can with all of you. And in fact, a word about my passion is also to encourage youngsters, because this year my first thing that I did as the president of KMA, when I just took over, the theme that I have put for this year is Youth at Level Next, Empowering Young Managers. So that means it's not managers alone, it's also entrepreneurs. So that's where things stand, and I'm very passionate when it comes to entrepreneurship, which I will probably tell you and I believe all of you are, most of you at least sitting here are upcoming entrepreneurs in your own right. Is that how it is? Yes. So I'm really happy that I'm addressing a real good motivation, a crowd that is motivated by yourself. So happy. Yes, Vivek. Continue.
Thank you, Bibu. So I think we'll first start at the very beginning, as the song goes. So let's start with the vision of founding an organization. And so what has been your background and why did you decide to get into a diagnostic space? What future did you see for it when you commenced this idea 30 years? So again, large number of startup entrepreneurs. So you were a startup entrepreneur 30 years ago. Why diagnostic business and how has it changed the landscape of diagnostics when you commenced your business at that point in time? That would be my first question, to understand what was going through your mind when you were still in your 20s at that point in time.
All right, yeah, I'll come to that straight away. But before that, I would like to ask the crowd out here, how many of you have failed in one or two attempts before you have actually taken up the... Be frank, please. You can lift your hands if there is anybody like that, Or all your venture, I mean, right from day one, have you been successful? Because I like to speak to people who have not been successful, actually. The other day when we were... we were discussing about, or we had a speaker in KMA who's running one of the largest ambulance services, air ambulance services based out of Dubai. And the topic was failures as stepping stones to success. But then after the talk, in fact, I was telling everyone, I think his failures are nothing as compared to mine. So I think I'm sitting here today after my 7th failure. So I'll put it up that way. Okay. I'm not getting into the failures part. So now that Vivek has asked me about that, please don't be ashamed to say that, you have been a failure or you are a failure, because, we don't know when luck is going to turn around or when, your ideas are going to be ideated into success. So Vivek asked me about this question as to how I started or how I came into Medivision. I would say that, my coming into Medivision is actually, in a way, by accident. Because, of course, very knowingly or with my full mind, I invested into this company, which was a passion for about 6 colleagues working in that line. I was the 7th guy, who came out odd because those 6 did not have enough of capital and they needed some capital finally. So I decided to put in, I was a young boy then, I had to ask my dad also for the money, and then that is how I put my money first into this business. And at that point of time, we had started the first ever CT scan. I wouldn't say it's the first one, but one of the earliest CT scan centers in the state of Kerala. I hope everyone knows what a CT scan is. Today it's a very common word, but at that point of time, setting up a CT scan center was as big as setting up a hospital or a mini hospital on its own. So that is how I started out. And then what happened was, okay, I told you I'm not talking about the failure part, but then I'll talk about how I came fully into this. So I was an investor with the company, and the company's, all the other 6 directors other than me were experienced people in the line. So one was one of the best doctors, best radiologists, because CT scan reports are the most, the most crucial thing in any scan center. And one was a biomedical engineer. So anything you have, any problems with the machines, they can get it rectified. One was a marketing professional. One was a radiographer. All of them professionals, I would say. So then, this company, the name was Medivision, and, the company suddenly built up a big name in the industry, and we were doing fabulously well. And that was the year 1993. Okay. And then, so naturally when everybody starts doing well, you get other visions to expand further. And then, then the company decided, of course, there was a vision by all the directors that, we should have the complete diagnostic facilities under one roof. Although it started as a CT scan center, we wanted to expand into the laboratory, mammography and all that, imaging, radiology, all that. So the company went in for there was already a loan for the machine. The company went in for further loans. The company also built up another 2 floors in the same building, and everything was put in place. But then where it failed was that the kind of revenues that were expected out of this whole thing did not come in. So we started defaulting on the bank loans. And then when a company is doing extremely well, there probably might be no problems because people take the profits and then go back home. But when a company starts going down the drain, then one person will say, okay, this is the way we save. The other person will say, this is the way we save, and all that. And all are good friends, so nobody wanted to be bad to each other. So it came to a stage wherein among us we decided. Another major hurdle also came up on the way. So there was this, erring on the bank loans at that point of time. And then suddenly there was this sudden inspection from the customs department, wherein at that point of time, CT scan machines could be imported with a 40% cut on duty. And most of these people used to say that, they used to give free, but then, they would not give free cases to the public. And that is one of the norms for, getting the cut on the duty, a 40% cut on the duty. And Medivision also followed suit. And then, we found out that, the customs people kind of found out that, we are not giving the kind of, the free cases that are to be given to the public. So they slapped a notice on the company, and then the company's lawyers said that at that point of time probably the project cost would have been about 1 crore or 1 crore plus, and the bank loans would have been something to that tune too, and or above that because it was mounting. And then suddenly there is this lawyer who tells us that you will be slapped with a fine of about 2 crores plus. So the project becomes completely unviable, and nobody would want to touch this company again. But then everybody starts giving advice like, between the directors, we'll do it this way, we'll do it that way and all that. And then we know that it is not going to work. And 7 directors in a company, 7 partners in a company, giving 7 advices, things are not going anywhere. So we decided, we are all friends. We decided that if somebody among us has the grit to take this heads on, let them take it. If not, we will find out a buyer, we will suffer the losses, and we will forget about this. I was too young, too inexperienced. I told you I was the most inexperienced guy in this field. And fortunately or unfortunately, at that point of time, my marriage also took place. So, and I had other businesses at that point of time, but then I was not fully involved in this business. But then suddenly, something in my mind told me, I'll give it a try. Okay. So I told my partners, I will take it. I'll take it from you, and whatever money you have invested, I will give it back to you, because I wanted that to be a very fair deal with my partners, because I know the kind of the money that they had put in. It was their sweat, their blood and bread and butter that they had saved over the years. So I said, I will do that, but you should give me some time. Frankly speaking, I didn't know where from all this is going to happen, because you have 3 plus 3 or 3 point something crores of liability sitting on your head, and the total asset valuation probably would be below 1 crore at that point of time. And how to take this forward, I don't know. And my wife, being from a business family, she said, we'll try it. So she gave me the confidence. Okay, I mean, once you get married, I think the first thing that you have to do is consult your better half, because, she comes from a very plush background, and, suddenly you can't put her into penury and things like that. So, and when she said, come what may, I'm with you, we'll take it over. So that is how I took it over. And of course, I didn't have the kind of money to pay all my partners and get things moving. I really didn't even know how to get things moving. So that is at that point of time, I invited my wife's brother, and he became a co-director, to join me as a partner, because I had to settle many of these things with my partners at least. And that is how I really started, if you tell me. So I was sitting with, one good thing about the company was, and the only promising thing about the company was, we had built up a very good goodwill in the industry, saying that our reports were, absolutely intact. All the doctors, the entire doctor community in and around Kochi, or this part of Kerala, I would say, because at that point of time I told you, CT scan was the only thing here, and CT scan reports, people used to come from all the way from Kottayam, from Idiki, from Trichur, and all that, beyond Trichur to come to our place to get CT scans done.
Do you have any queries on that? Would you like to? If not, I'll just continue. But if somebody wants to, poke your thoughts in, please.
I am not. My dad was more of a civil servant in the sense, he was more of a bureaucrat than this thing. But then I have a lineage of business. My paternal grandfather was, he wasn't involved in the freedom fight and all that, but then he is the one who is credited with having the first accredited advertising agency in Kerala. So probably that was there in my blood, and and my mother's, my maternal grandfather again, because I've seen more of my maternal grandfather than my paternal grandfather, because by the time I was born, my paternal grandfather was no more. So my maternal grandfather, so I have seen both sides of the story. That is, growing up as an officer's son on one side, the privileges of being an officer's son, and the privileges of being the grandson of, well-to-do businessman, and all that was there. So, but I was always, interested in the other side of the story, that is the business side, rather than becoming an officer kind of thing. So, my mother was totally against me getting into any kind of business, because she wanted me to have a good life, I would say.
Stable, no? I think, yeah. I'm sure many of you, or probably most of you sitting here, would have faced that predicament with your family saying, oh, at least kalyanam കഴിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണെങ്കിൽ കുഴപ്പമില്ല ഈ സ്റ്റേജിലൊക്കെ ബിസിനസ് തുടങ്ങിയാൽ പെണ്ണ് കിട്ടുമോ എന്നൊക്കെ we've had that conversation with so many of our clients who come to us and say ഇങ്ങനെ മക്കൾ ബിസിനസ് തുടങ്ങണം സ്വന്തമായിട്ട് തുടങ്ങണം, particularly some of my professional clients, when they come to us, say that എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ you please convince him അത് ഈ സ്റ്റേജിൽ അതൊന്നും വേണ്ട. I'm sure many of you have faced that, but then you have to break that barrier, and that's why you're all here today.
At that point of time, we had some interest in a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, which my uncle was a managing director, and we had also some other interest in pharmaceutical distribution and all that. So I actually joined, because I didn't want to take up any campus interviews after my MBA, so I actually joined up my uncle's company, I would say, as a director, of course. And that is when, and then I also invested into another finance company and all that. But then I gave it all up. Finally, I had to give it all up when it came to the, when I had to take on Medivision fully. That's how it happened. So answering another thing that you just said, that's why I asked you who all are having failures, because every time, because then the story was very rough, for the first maybe 10-12 years. It was very, very bad for me after I took it over from my partners in 1997. So, and every time I faced a setback, one thing I used to hear from especially my mom was, she meant good only. അന്നേ എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞു ഒരു ജോലിക്ക് പോകാനായിട്ട്. But anyway, I believe right now she should be happy.
I'm sure she is, and we're also proud of what you have built. And how big is it? I mean, many of you here may not probably know, as we stand today, how big is its Medivision, and what is it that, in terms of the diagnostic sector in Kerala, what is the imprint that Medivision has left in terms of some new ideas, new innovations, or the positioning? Apart, of course, the quality is something which is, unquestioned, but what is it that Medivision has done which has, really made this a green field for so many of the others too? Today it's a very, very large space here. It was probably very different when you started. So what has set you apart, and where is Medivision today in terms of number of centers?
Yeah, I'll answer that question, but before that, I would also tell you one thing. A wise man always learns from the mistakes of others, and a fool learns from his own mistakes. So I always tell my sons that you will not make mistakes because you have the biggest fool as your father. Okay, because I learned from my own mistakes, to be very frank. Now coming to this question that you just asked me, today what I'm having 78 branches of my company in different parts of South India, predominantly in Kerala, with head office in Kochi. And we also run many hospital laboratories within the hospital. And we also do technical support. I think I mentioned on some time back that, we have actually, people have started coming to us to seek technical support for, setting up laboratories. So right now I have a team in Africa doing this for a hospital there, and another inquiry for me is coming from the Maldives. So that is how we are positioned right now. So if you ask me that, and if you ask me about what my share of, this industry per se even today is not actually completely documented or anything. But from what I understand, this industry is worth about more than 100,000 crores pan-India. But even today, after all this, the organized sector is about only 15 to 20% of the market. I'm not authentic. When I tell this, please don't take it as an authentic figure, because this is at least what I have heard, or what I have not heard, what I have read through different articles and things like that. So, but it's nothing is actually authentic about it. And then coming to our share, perhaps from our own internal, surveys and things like that, whichever markets that we are in, we probably control about 10 to 15% of the market share. That's what I could say.
Yes, I think that deserves a round of applause. A homebred 10 to 15% and growing as he moves forward. What about your expansion plans, Bibu? You're looking at the rest of India, or you want to have more centers in the states you are in today?
Yeah, expansion plans. You see, we are very, very slow. We are the only diagnostic chain in Kerala today actually having no other, partnership, no other tie-up with any other company. Again, I don't know whether I'm making a mistake in that, because, today, from what we started in 1990, I would say we started in 1997 or 98, or the company started in 1993, because we had to shelve our bread and butter, or our feather in the cap at that point of time was the CT scan, and then all of a sudden we had to get into the laboratory. So how we build a name in the laboratory sector is that, when we started out, our idea of having a laboratory was just a support service for our other, verticals, like X-ray, mammography, and, CT scan and all that. But it came to a stage wherein, I told you one thing, our reports were highly respected by the medical community. So it came to a stage wherein we actually had to upgrade our laboratory to the expectations of the doctors. And then again, when you upgrade yourself, what happens is you need more business to survive. So when you need more business to survive, then naturally what happens is you need more markets. because you put in a machine worth, say, maybe a few lakhs, and then you look at the ROI on that machine. If you have to have that ROI, you need more number of samples for the machine. And if you need more number of samples for the machine, you need to get into newer markets. So that is how we had to expand because of compulsion rather than anything else. And that's how we slowly started expanding. And then we started getting in the number of samples and all that. And that is how we actually grew. We had to compulsorily start putting up newer branches. And yeah, that's how it was.
I think probably the COVID phase would have been a great challenge for you on one side, your people being constantly exposed to a lot of patients or, expected prospective patients all the time on one side. Other side, a huge business opportunity also in terms of growth. And how did you handle that phase? Out of nowhere, something like a COVID strikes, and what was your business plan, or did it just happen?
No. It is, I'll tell you again, coming back to our, this thing, like I told you, when we started out, we had to shelve, at one point of time, we had to shelve our CT scan completely. And then we had to start concentrating on the laboratory. And then when we started concentrating on the laboratory, there was an expectation from the public and the medical fraternity that we need to give them very good results. And for that, we needed to have higher end machines and staff, highly qualified staff like doctors and paramedical staff for manning this and giving out good reports, on time. Now, a laboratory is something that is, we handle thousands of tests, and our test menu is quite huge. So it's a challenge every day actually. You handle thousands of patients, thousands of samples, and all that. It's a big challenge. The logistics is a challenge. Then giving out the reports on time is a challenge. I think predominantly those sitting here probably have not grown up with seeing that kind of a laboratory. Because when you look at a small laboratory in a small town, it would be that, this thing, Rektam, Kafam, Malam, Mutram kind of, and it would be maybe about 100, 200 square feet of space wherein the owner would be a laboratory technician and he would be doing all the tests on something called a calorimeter. And then he would be, whatever he cannot do, he will probably be outsourcing to people like us. And that was how it was. So naturally, we put in some of the best technologies into the industry from day one. We put in some of the best staff into the industry from day one. And so, to answer your question on COVID, COVID is actually now this term called PCR is, I think, very common. It's common nomenclature for all of the public. RT-PCR is very, very common nomenclature. But then, we had started our PCR laboratory at the cost of a fortune at that point of time, about a year before COVID struck, not knowing that COVID is going to come in. Nobody knew it. It is in the overnight that, this thing happened and, all of us started getting this thing. So we had the lab in place. We had the infrastructure in place. We had everything in place. So naturally, when COVID struck, there was only us and another laboratory in the whole of Kerala which had a PCR lab. So, but then that was very, very challenging because 50% at least of those people working with us from kind of families who could afford to have a meal without the salaries coming from their sons, daughters, wives, whatever. They decided to keep their children or their spouses at home. So it was a major challenge when it came to the testing. But then overnight, the government of India asked us to start doing this because the numbers started coming in, and it was a real challenge. Our HR department had to work at maybe 24 365, I would say, that kind of thing. But then, and probably I am one among the very few people in Kerala who have had, no rest during that time. So, because there was this challenge from the government, from the public, and from our own staff, because like I told you, half the people wouldn't come and half the people would fall sick, because you see, we are all human beings handling the laboratory, within the laboratory. But I would, now my administrative office is in a completely separate building, and I go there hardly into the laboratories. I don't go very often. But I made it a point that every day morning, first thing I would do is get into the COVID lab, because I just wanted to give my staff the confidence, saying that, okay, if we die together. That's it. So, because they are handling so many number of samples, many of them cannot take it. And they're discouraged actually from their, by their families to come in and all that. So, luckily for us, I also got, COVID struck me too, but then, I think most of our staff got it, but then, we were luckily that, there were no casualties from within. So that is how it was.
Great to know that there were no casualties there.
And there were a lot of challenges at that point of time, I think 90% of the shipping companies suddenly decided that COVID would be Cochin would be the best spot for, parking their ships, and all the sailors would come into Cochin. They would be staying in all these hotels. They would be, cordoned off from the rest of the public. Have to test them, then tell them that, things are okay. And before a ship sails out, we would have to give them the results saying that they are okay. So I think thousands and thousands of sailors would take our reports and then go out into the oceans. So, and another thing is, cargo movement was at its highest at that point of time, I think. So all that was there. So the challenges was too great, because when if a ship is held in a port for more than maybe a few hours extra, then what happens is that they pay thousands of dollars more. So if our reports are delayed by probably a minute or an hour, they lose thousands of dollars. So it was a challenge for us also to see that, all these reports go out on time. We give them the most accurate reports, because if we send out, it's a group of, say, maybe about 100 shippies coming in, and, if one among them is wrongly tested as negative, if he is positive, then all the 100 are affected. So it is a major challenge at that point of time. But luckily, like I said, no casualties. Things went on well, and we could.
I think personally also, what a challenge it would have been, because you're hearing him speak with a very quiet, dignified temperament, and he maintained that throughout. All his friends would be calling him. Everybody has somebody in the family being tested. And the moment you test in Medivision lab, you give it for test, and half an hour later, that's the way people would think, and the kind of pressure he would have been just from, his large circle of friends itself, and plus clients and everybody else, But he handled it with so much. I would have personally called him at least a dozen times during that phase to say, somebody close to me has given a test, can you please expedite it, or somebody has a flight to catch, or so many different situations. Before you catch every flight, you need to take this, and somebody sometimes late night and all that.
That has happened many times. One incident, it has happened many times, but then one particular incident is that, we have this counter at Kadavandra. It's a very small counter wherein, people come and I saw, one Sunday I just walked into that counter, COVID, the heart of COVID. And for sure, anybody coming in there is only coming for a COVID test. And then there is this man, who looks worried on his face, and then he is standing outside the counter, and then, I asked him, sir, what happened? What's wrong? He said, I've been waiting for my result for the last half an hour, and, your people are not responding. And so then I asked the girl at the counter as to why are you delaying his results? And then she said, from the central laboratory, this particular, they're not giving me the results, so that's why I've asked him to wait and all that. So then, naturally, see, one thing is, we have this couple of things that we maintain in-house is like, our percentages of errors should be, we have put it as a 0.1 percentage in-house. That is how it should be. Next thing is we should never send back a customer unhappy. So counter service has to be good. And then, I find that this girl is kind of not saying, sir, please wait and all that. So I found her not too amenable with this particular patient, and he's standing outside. And but then there is some negativity on her face. And when I called up the COVID lab in charge, and then I asked her, why are you delaying this particular patient's name and all that? Then she said, സാറേ അത് പോസിറ്റീവാണ്, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ ഇങ്ങനെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് കൊടുക്കാനായിട്ട്. സോ ഐ എം സീയിങ് ദിസ്, ഐ എം നോട്ട് വെയറിങ് എ മാസ്ക് അറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് പോയിന്റ് ഓഫ് ടൈം. ദിസ് പേഴ്സൺ ഈസ് വെയറിങ് എ മാസ്ക്, ബട്ട് ഹി ഈസ് ജസ്റ്റ് സ്റ്റാൻഡിങ് right in front of me. And then suddenly I had to break this news to him. So I don't know whether I'm infected, I'm going back home, I'm also getting into a family. So there have been many things like this, but then this is just one incident. Well, luckily I tested myself, and I quarantined myself for a day, and then I tested myself. I was okay. Completely in the, I'm a like you said, completely not at all related to science or anything. I'm a management graduate with a commerce background. ആവശ്യമുള്ളപ്പം എല്ലാം പഠിക്കും നമ്മൾ, അതിനെപ്പറ്റി ഓർത്ത് ഒരു ടെൻഷനും വേണ്ട. സോ വാട്ട് എവർ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ്, you will study. You don't have to be an engineer to actually become the head of a large engineering company. You will learn by yourself, and but then you should have a very good team. അതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് ഞാൻ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു എൻ്റെ ജീവിതത്തിലുണ്ടായ വേറൊരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ പറഞ്ഞുതരാം. സി ഐ ടോൾഡ് യു, ഞാൻ തുടങ്ങിയപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെയായിരുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. ലൈക്ക് ഐ സ്റ്റാർട്ടഡ് വിത്ത് എ ഫുള്ളി ഡെറ്റ് റിട്ടൺ കമ്പനി. ടുഡേ വി ആർ എ സീറോ ഡെറ്റ് കമ്പനി. അപ്പം ഞാൻ അങ്ങനെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഒരു വെരി ലാർജ് കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് ഫാർമസ്യൂട്ടിക്കൽ കമ്പനി ഇൻ ഇന്ത്യ കംസ് ടു മീ ആൻഡ് ടെൽസ് മീ, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, ദ ഓൺലി തിങ് ദാറ്റ് ഐ ഹാഡ് അറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് പോയിന്റ് ഓഫ് ടൈം വിത്ത് മീ വാസ് എ ഗുഡ് വിൽ ദാറ്റ് my company gives out good results. അപ്പം അതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് യാതൊരു കോംപ്രമൈസും ഫ്രം ഡേ വൺ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല, വാട്ട് എവർ ഹാർഡ്ഷിപ്സ് വി ഹാവ് ഗോൺ ത്രൂ. ഓക്കെ, ഞാൻ അതാ പറഞ്ഞത്, വി ഹാവ് ഓൾവേസ് ഞങ്ങൾ മേടിച്ചേക്കുന്ന മെഷീൻസും ഞങ്ങൾ എംപ്ലോയ് ചെയ്തേക്കുന്ന സ്റ്റാഫും ഞങ്ങൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മെൻറ്റർ ചെയ്തെടുത്തേക്കുന്ന ഞങ്ങളുടെ സ്റ്റാഫും ദ ബെസ്റ്റ് ഇൻ ദ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി ആസ് ഫാർ ആസ് വി ആർ പോസിബിൾ, അങ്ങനെയാണ് ചെയ്തേക്കുന്നത്. സോ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജ് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, വെൻ എവർ എ ന്യൂ ടെക്നോളജി ഈസ് ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ്ഡ് ഇൻ ദ മാർക്കറ്റ്, ദ കമ്പനീസ് കം ടു അസ് ഫസ്റ്റ്. We are trying out this is a new technology. ഇപ്പോൾ electrochemiluminescence as an example, electrochemiluminescence എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ടെക്നോളജി at that point of time was not heard of in South India. അപ്പം the first machine in South India ഞങ്ങളാണ് വാങ്ങിയത്, ഞങ്ങളാണ് പർച്ചേസ് ചെയ്തത്, ഞങ്ങളാണ് ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങിയത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇലക്ട്രോകെമിലുമിനസെൻസ് എന്തുവാണെന്ന് എന്നോട് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എനിക്ക് ഇന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുതരാൻ കുറച്ചൊക്കെ, പക്ഷേ ഐ എം നോട്ട് എൻ എക്സ്പേർട്ട് ഇൻ എനി ഓഫ് ദീസ് തിങ്സ്. പക്ഷേ ഐ സിറ്റ് വിത്ത് അവർ ടെക്നിക്കൽ പീപ്പിൾ ആൻഡ് സേ ദാറ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു വന്നത് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഒരു വലിയൊരു കമ്പനി he came to me, അവരുടെ I think their regional head or something came to me and said, sir, we are going to start off with a chain of centers across India. And especially ഞങ്ങൾ കേരള ആണ് വലിയ മാർക്കറ്റായിട്ട് കാണുന്നത്. സോ വി വാണ്ട് യു ടു ബി അവർ മാസ്റ്റർ ഫ്രാഞ്ചൈസി ആൻഡ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. സോ ഐ എം ഓൾറെഡി ഷേക്കിംഗ് ലൈക്ക് എ ലീഫ് ബിക്കോസ് ഐ ഡോണ്ട് നോ വെയർ ഐ എം ഗോയിങ് ടു ടേക്ക് ദിസ് ബിസിനസ് ടു. ആയിരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്താണ് ഒരാൾ വന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, അതും ദാറ്റ് ടു ഐ ഡോണ്ട് ഹാവ് മണി വിത്ത് മീ. All I know is, I have this fire in me to take things forward. I have got a good technical team with me. I have got good machines from me, and the doctor community accepts my reports. This is my strength. My weakness is that I don't have finance. And then suddenly, a large corporate comes to me and tells me, why don't you take up my franchise and, then, you are comfortable. And we will see that we have so many branches across Kerala. Naturally, you get frightened. So I call up my entire team and tell them, There is an offer like this from so and so company, and why don't we become their franchisee and sit quietly and enjoy life? Then my entire team comes to me and tells me, sir, is that why we have worked so hard all these few years for this thing? Let them come, we are with you. So that team, that the team spirit and, the kind of motivation that they gave me, the technical team, especially the technical team, they gave me and said, come what may, we are very sure of our results. So you don't have to worry, you do your management part, we will do our technical part. Let them come, we will face them. Then suddenly after a few days, this guy comes and says, my head office is in Ravipuram. We have already identified a space near Woodlands Hotel, so we're going to start setting this up. He is trying to frighten me more and more. And then I said, okay, no problem. You start, we will be competitors. Because that confidence that came to me was from my team. I could build a very good team at that point of time. That is how that confidence came to me. And I'm telling you, they did not take off. Okay? Many of these guys who have frightened me could not take off. We could still sustain, and we are still one of the largest players. At that point of time, we were nowhere in the industry. But then, I can very proudly say we are one of the largest in the industry today because we could sustain all these threats, all these things. But there is only one thing, we have always trusted in a very good team, and we have always trusted in our quality.
Your question, I think there is a very relevant add-on to this also, the whole privacy thing, because today Bibu has data about the medical ailments of the who's who in Kerala. So our information leak is also something that I'm sure safeguards are there, just to add on to this.
Anybody, you see, when you start small itself, you have to think about your cyber security. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് cyber attack ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട് about 3-4 years back, 4-5 years back. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് നല്ലൊരു major cyber attack ഉണ്ടായി. Almost all our data was stolen. We had to recover it. We did not succumb to what those guys said. We had to recover it. We faced a hard time at that point of time. കാരണം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ ഡേറ്റ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ല, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇപ്പം if you look at our client list, the who's who of society are probably our clients also. So അവരുടെ ഡേറ്റ പ്രൊട്ടക്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ട ഒരു സൈഡ് ഞങ്ങൾക്കുണ്ട്, ഒരു സൈഡിൽ. വേറൊരു സൈഡിൽ ഞങ്ങളുടെ തന്നെ റെഗുലർ ക്ലയൻസിൻ്റെ, വെദർ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഹീസ് റിച്ച് ഓർ പൂർ ഇസ് നോട്ട്, അവർ സോഷ്യൽ സ്റ്റാറ്റസ് എല്ലാം അവിടുത്തെ കൺസേൺ, അവരുടെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും ഡേറ്റ ഈസ് ഹ്യൂജ്. ആൻഡ് ഞങ്ങൾക്കത് പ്രൊട്ടക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാ സൈബർ ഇതും ഞങ്ങൾ ചെയ്തേ പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ, പ്രൊട്ടക്ഷൻ ഞങ്ങൾ ചെയ്തേ പറ്റത്തുള്ളൂ. വി ആർ ഡൂയിങ് ഇറ്റ് ഓൾസോ. അത് ചെയ്യാതെ പറ്റത്തില്ല. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് സി there are two aspects to this. One is marketing per se. If you are selling a quality product or a service, marketing is a problem still, but half your problems are solved that way. But ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു യുണീക്ക് marketing, I told you, we had to shelf something called a CT scan is a generic thing. So that there is this ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു laboratory test എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ it is it's a generic thing. Okay, you talk about sugar, you should talk about cholesterol, or you talk about this, that and all that. Everybody sitting in this room knows what sugar is or what cholesterol is, at least, or what BP is. But if I ask you what nephrosis is, you wouldn't know. Okay. None of the doctors who refer me know. Unless me or my team go to the doctor and tell him, we have got this test called nephrosis. I'm just telling you an example. Or if I tell you that there is something called Salcott, you wouldn't know. No doctor would know. I'm just giving you two names. What we have done is, Salcott is actually saliva from, cortisol from saliva. It is not a blood test. But this Salcott is actually a unique test which we have branded. Nephrosis is again another test which we have branded. This is for knowing how good your kidney function is. We talk about a normal kidney function test. Okay, we call it, everybody knows. but nobody would be knowing what a nephro-C is, because that is again another unique test from us, which we have branded. It's a branded product of our company, a branded service from our company. So that is the way, you know, we take on so in a way, doctors welcome us into their cabins, because although we are selling a generic product, they know that, you know, when our person gets into his cabin, he is also getting himself equipped for a newer test. So that is how we stay ahead of the competition. That's a very relevant. That's a very relevant question, and doctorsum commissionum, it is part of the industry. I would ഒരു മറ്റേ സൈഡ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞുതരാം. നിങ്ങൾ ചിന്തിക്കുന്ന പോലെ അല്ല ഇത്. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു മാർക്കറ്റ് കോമ്പറ്റീഷൻ, കാരണം ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ CT സ്കാൻ നിർത്തിയതുകൊണ്ട് എനിക്ക് ധൈര്യമായിട്ട് അത് പറഞ്ഞുതരാം. മാർക്കറ്റ് ഫാക്ടേഴ്സും ഇന്നും എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്ന ഒരു CT സ്കാനിന് ഇപ്പം മേ ബി അറൗണ്ട് 2000 രൂപയായിരിക്കും ഒരു ബ്രെയിൻ സ്കാനിൻ്റെ കോസ്റ്റ്. 2100 ഞങ്ങൾ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്ത സമയത്ത് 1600 1300 ആയിരുന്നു. അപ്പം അന്ന് ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ കമ്മീഷൻ കൊടുക്കരുത് എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഇത് വന്നിട്ട്, അപ്പോൾ ഐ ആക്ച്വലി വർക്ക് ദിസ് ഔട്ട്. ഡോക്ടേഴ്സിൻ്റെ ഇടയ്ക്ക് എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ഇത് വെച്ചിട്ട് വർക്കൗട്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഞാൻ ഷെയർഡ് ഇറ്റ് വിത്ത് ദ ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ്. അന്ന് സയൻറ്റിഫിക്കലി ഒരു മെഷീൻ്റെ കോസ്റ്റ്, ഇലക്ട്രിസിറ്റി കോസ്റ്റ്, ഡോക്ടേഴ്സ് കോസ്റ്റ്, ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടെ വെച്ച് നോക്കണേ, അന്ന് തന്നെ ഒരു CT സ്കാൻ ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ 2100 രൂപ വേണമായിരുന്നു. അതാണ് ഈ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയിൽ ഇത് ചെയ്തിട്ട് 1600 രൂപയ്ക്കും 1700 രൂപയ്ക്കും കൊടുത്തിട്ട് അതിൻ്റെ അകത്തുനിന്ന് ഡോക്ടേഴ്സിന് ചിലവർ കമ്മീഷൻ കൊടുക്കും, ചിലർ കൊടുക്കത്തില്ല, ചിലർ ഡിസ്കൗണ്ട് ആയിട്ട് കൊടുക്കും, ഇതെല്ലാം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ബട്ട് എവറിബഡി ഹാസ് ടു സ്റ്റേ ഇൻ ദ ബിസിനസ്, എവറിബഡി ഹാസ് ടു സ്റ്റേ. അപ്പോൾ അതാണ് അതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് ഒരു റെലവൻറ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ഈ കമ്മീഷൻ പാർട്ടെന്ന് പറയുന്ന സംഭവം ഇറ്റ്സ് എൻ ഈവിൾ ഇൻ എവറി ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി. പക്ഷേ മെഡിക്കൽ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയിൽ വരുമ്പം അതിന് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ഒരു സാങ്ക്ടിറ്റി വരും. ബിക്കോസ് യുനോ ഒരു കോമൺ മാന് എൻ്റെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നാണ് അത് വാങ്ങുന്നത് എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള ഒരു ഇത് വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇഫ് യു എംപ്ലോയ് an electrician in your house, he also gets a commission from the electrical dealer or a plumber for that matter, or a mason for that matter. അതെല്ലാം ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പം ഇതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് ഇത് കൂടുതൽ ഹൈപ്ഡ് ആകുന്നതെന്ന് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് വാട്ട് ഐ ഹാവ് ടു ടെൽ യു ഇൻസൈഡ് ദിസ്. ബിക്കോസ് ഇഫ് യു ബിലീവ് ഇൻ യുവർ ക്വാളിറ്റി, you do not necessarily have to give all this out. Today, 30 years down the line, we are a debt-free company. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ആരോടും ഒന്നും ആൻസർ ചെയ്യേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടുന്ന രീതിയിൽ നമുക്ക് എക്സ്പാൻഡ് ചെയ്ത് പോകാം. ചിലപ്പോൾ ഞങ്ങൾ തുടങ്ങുന്ന ഞങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാ ബ്രാഞ്ചസും സക്സസ്ഫുൾ അല്ല. ചില ബ്രാഞ്ചസ് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ചിലപ്പം ലോസസ് കുറേ നാൾ സസ്റ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടായിരിക്കും ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് അത് പ്രോഫിറ്റിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഇതിൻ്റെ അകത്തൊന്നും ഞങ്ങൾ ആരോട് ആൻസറബിൾ അല്ല. ബിക്കോസ് വി ആർ എ വെരി വെരി പ്രൈവറ്റ്ലി ഹെൽഡ് ഫാമിലി കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് കൺസേൺ. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പം നമുക്ക് വാല്യുവേഷൻ എടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഫണ്ടേഴ്സ് റെഡിയാണ്, ഇൻവെസ്റ്റേഴ്സ് റെഡിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ മേ ബി ഞാൻ പറയില്ല, ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു മൈൻഡ് സെറ്റ് കൊണ്ട് മാത്രമാണ് വി ആർ ആക്ച്വലി റെസിസ്റ്റിംഗ് ഫ്രം ദിസ്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ദാറ്റ്സ് എ ഈസി വേ ഔട്ട്. വി ക്യാൻ ആക്ച്വലി ഹാവ് സംബഡി എൽസ് ഓൾസോ ഓൺ ടു അവർ ബോർഡ് ആൻഡ് യു നോ വി ക്യാൻ പ്രോബ്ലി എക്സ്പാൻഡ് മച്ച് ബെറ്റർ. പക്ഷേ ഇതൊന്നും ഇല്ലാതെ തന്നെ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് എക്സ്പാൻഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ പറഞ്ഞ എല്ലാ ഇതും ഞങ്ങൾ റെസിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഈ കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് മേ ബി ഒരു ലാസ്റ്റ് 15 years, I think every 6 months or so we'll have one person coming in and saying, why don't you give some shares to us. ഇപ്പം you talked about Metropolisന്റെ directors have come to Kochi and sat with me and said, why don't you give us your shares. You talk about DDRC, who's now SRL, അവർ വെൽസ്പ്രിംഗ് ആയിട്ടാണ് തുടങ്ങിയത്. ഇവരുടെ അടുത്ത് എല്ലാം പോകുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് നമ്മുടെ അടുത്താണ് വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. ബിക്കോസ് വി ഹാഡ് ദ ലാർജസ്റ്റ് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക്, വി കുഡ് ബിൽഡ് ദ ലാർജസ്റ്റ് നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് അറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് പോയിന്റ് ഓഫ് ടൈം.
One question is, because again, my father and your father were friends, we are friends today. Your son and my son, they were driving together in Munnar. So seeing I know the family values which you represent. Now you have your brother-in-law as a partner over a 25-year span. So what would be some tips you can share regarding that equation of partnership, one within family or any other partner who's like family? Many of us, some people are more family than family. So how does a partnership work and work so well over a longer term?
Yeah, so that is, see, basically, how many of you are doing partnerships here? Yeah. See, for partnerships, there should be an equation. Like I told you, in the first place, why we decided, six of us decided that, we can part, is because all of them were very nice people, but then, nobody had the kind of money to tide over that particular situation at that point of time. And then I was probably, I would say, foolish enough at that point of time to take it over just heads on, and then, turn it around. But that is, I wouldn't say I'm the best of the management experts or anything to, have turned it around. I mean, lots of strokes of luck also came in between and all that. Okay. So, now, like I told you, my partner is my brother-in-law. We have distinct, watertight compartments, I would say, of management. That is, in our company, per se, we have decided, there are a couple of things that we have decided, like, the women would not be part of the business. That is, although my wife is my partner's sister, sorry, we have decided that family is family, business is business, so they would be kept away from the business. They are directors in the company, but they have nothing to do with the company. Or rather, they have nothing to do with the management of the company, day to day. So, and we have also decided that there is nothing called a managing director or a chairman in our company, because we are both directors. We were a private limited company, so we can afford to have, we don't need that nomenclature called a managing director per se. So currently I look after the operations side of the company and the finance side of the company. He looks after the marketing side of the company, and that's how things are going. So when you have distinct roles to play, and you don't interfere to each other until and unless there is need of interference. So that is how we go. From the consumer standpoint, see, the more the money comes in, the more technology comes in and all that. So, and when, see, large groups, like, see, I think the largest group per se would be the Lal Paths right now in India. They're based out of Delhi, and, they have acquired left, right and center. They've acquired, laboratories across the country. So they have this leverage. They went public, and that is the reason why they have a lot of funds to acquire things like that. So actually it is very good, because those tests that are not done by many people are done by them in their central laboratory in Delhi, and I think they've got regional laboratories too. In fact, in Cochin they took over one of the best laboratories at that point of time was the DDC International, they call it, and they took that over, and for the Cochinites at one point of time, that was the only laboratory, the good laboratory. So they took that over. So they've got that leverage, they've got the advantage. Definitely they have got, and mergers, acquisitions and all that plays a good role when it comes to this thing. But if you ask me whether that is good or bad, like ThyrocAre as an example. ThyrocAre, see what they did is every company has got its own ethos, its own systems and all that. So ThyrocAre, they actually built up, more than building up a laboratory, they built up a mass logistics chain. So if you want to become and they went the franchising route. So if you want to become a ThyrocAre franchisee, you would need just a small room, maybe a room below steps in a big building. You could call that ThyrocAre laboratory and start collecting samples for them, and then just send it across to their laboratory. So ThyrocAre is actually not connected with the public. So they're seeing only samples. Whereas other laboratories who have gone large are probably seeing the patient also. So it's a different way of looking at things, that's all. But then, in whichever way it is, if your idea is only to make money, you can do that. No, as far as we are concerned, today it is not very sensible to keep opening newer branches. Okay. But then wherever we have an opportunity, we do that. But our idea of that is to connect with the local people in and around that area. So our name becomes a household name in that area. So that's an ethos of, how things are taken forward.
It's the case in any PE invested company for that matter, no? Because I sit on the other side as a professional where, many PEs come to us who are always shopping, literally. And Kerala has become a good ground for PEs to shop in. They've also suddenly realized, and out of nowhere, you couldn't have imagined Blackstone coming and picking up Kim's till maybe a couple of years back. We wouldn't think about that. So today the whole perspective about Kerala is also changing. People see this is a good place to live in, good place to settle down, good place for businesses to grow. So a lot of healthcare, opportunity. And they also look at scaling up. And finally, what is a PE? PE wants to see a multiple. They want to see a valuation. They want to exit at 10x of whatever they enter in, and they put some of the best hedge fund guys to run these places. Now, some of the larger hospitals which are here today, if you look at their CEOs, they are hedge fund guys. Earlier we used to be doctors. Today, hedge fund guys are running hospitals here. No? So that's a change in perspective that's happening. But there again, it largely depends on the value systems and how you want to see it. So Bibu and his brother-in-law Burley, they have a certain philosophy, and they are also, they are also people who are qualified management professionals. So they understand the management side of business also. So I think that's also a big plus as far as Medivision is concerned. Okay, one important question that I need to ask you. You are adorning the role as president of Kerala Management Association. As I said earlier, it's a very, it's pivotal to the management movement. The caption itself is spearheading management movement, and very large programs, government intervention, and everything KMA is involved in. Where do you see KMA or your role as president, and how do you think you can help this ecosystem? And since I know what your theme for the year is, probably you can also talk about that and how KMA, and along with KMA, we at TiE and CII, all the associations, because one ecosystem, we all work together for that. We are all part of the same ecosystem. So how do you think this, the very important pillars of ecosystem are the supporting associations, and what do you see as a role, particularly for KMA?
For business women who are sitting here, who are trying to come up in business, or managers. So this year, when I took over as a president, I think I told you initially, the theme that we have set is to encourage youngsters to come up and to add on or take on roles in future as leadership roles. So the theme for this year is Youth at Level Next, Empowering Young Managers. Okay. Now in KMA this year, what we have done is we have seen that every Friday there is a leader insight session, as we call it. That is, we have captains of industry coming to talk to us, addressing the members. And what we have seen is, why this particular theme has also come up is, what we have seen is that, youngsters like you, there's no blame game. You're all busy building up your careers and this thing. So you don't get the time for, coming down and, sitting there and all that. But the last Friday, we are trying to make that as Inspire series. We call it Inspire series. We are trying to get in youngsters who have made it really big in life. Okay. Now you talk about me or Vivek as a highly respected chartered accountant in town. We all have maybe years of experience behind us, and then you call us successful, if you may call us that. But then it's taken us years. But then there are people, maybe I wouldn't say half my age, but then they're in their 30s and all that, who have really made it big. And these kind of people, or below 40. These kind of people whom we really want to address, people like you. Because that would be an inspiration for you people to, take on, motivate yourself and then build up your careers. So that is one major initiative that we are doing. And I would request all of you to join our Young Minds program. We call it the Young Minds program. We have, I would want another 500 members to come in. And the membership fee is actually reduced, and we are giving that as a part of the convention. We have an annual management convention of KMA. This time again, we are facing, the theme for the convention itself is Elevate to Manage, I think. Yeah, I just forgot the full thing. So you can elevate yourself by subscribing to the convention. It's at Hyatt. It's a 2-day convention, and we would request maximum number of youngsters to take part in that and to motivate yourself to take on leadership roles in the future, and also motivate yourself by hearing motivational stories from others. You are welcome to KMA every week. There are, there are so many initiatives that we are now doing to empower youth. That's what I have to say. Frankly speaking, pricing is a major challenge in this industry. Okay, especially when it comes to people like us, because we are out in the market, giving it to the public. You have to balance your pricing according to the competition. But then, there are certain unique products, like I told you, we have certain unique products or services wherein pricing may not be a problem, but then it doesn't mean that, you can go into the public and then, charge them anything that you want. So we have to maintain reasonable margins and then give it. But then always we have two verticals actually. We have different verticals, but one vertical is the B2B business, which is which constitutes about 60% of our volumes. And, that is taking samples from laboratories, from hospital laboratories. Major hospitals are our clients, and we are kind of a back-end office for them. So there, the national players are there, and then other competitors from within the state are also there. So naturally, we have to balance our pricing and do it accordingly. So there is, if you ask me, it's a market competition that decides upon the pricing. That's all. And we have to be competitive, and we cannot make losses. It's very simple.
Right, so I think we must close. We have already crossed the 6 p.m. time limit, and Arun has been showing me a timeout for the last 5 minutes. It's been a wonderful session. Loud round of applause to Bibu and the entire team Medivision. They have built up one of the most respected, reputed, and through their value systems, we take great pride in Medivision as being a flag bearer of the diagnostic service from Kerala. So, Bibu, thank you very much for joining us today.
So Vivek, before we conclude, there are some of our couple of young friends who actually want to share their feedback. So, interest of time, we'll take one person.
First of all, I am very thankful for this opportunity. I think I will never have honor of a diagnostic chain speak like this. And sir, you maintaining an informal tone enabled us to hear a lot of stuff we wouldn't have heard from him otherwise. I think hearing to someone who tackled challenges like COVID at large scale, and it was really inspiring. And I also learned how to treat your employees and also your customers from him. And overall, I think I learned a lot of stuff, and it was really inspiring. Thank you, sir.
Can I request Vivek to hand over appreciation to Bibu?